Happy Wednesday, Corporate Misfits. Brittany Darrington here, and welcome to the Corporate Misfit Podcast, episode 60. I am so excited for today's strategy session. Before we get started, though, if you have headphones, I recommend you put them in, or if you have kids around you, I recommend that you might listen to this podcast episode later. There is some not so kid-friendly words within this podcast episode today, so I just want to make you aware of that before you listen to this on blast. Today, we are chatting with Jacqueline Fisch, who is an intuitive copywriter, a strategist, and a writing coach for business owners who want to sound more human while they change the world. She helps them ditch the jargon so that they can relate to and connect with their perfect clients using engaging online copy that sells. Before launching her writing and coaching business, Jacqueline spent 13 years working in corporate communications and management consulting. She's collaborated with over 200 clients ranging from Fortune 500 companies, US governments, tech startups, life and business coaches, and so much more. Jacqueline is passionate about helping entrepreneurs drop the fussy writing and jargon and instead communicate authentically, letting their personality shine through and always in the simplest way possible. Jacqueline lives in New Jersey with her husband, two spirited little kids, a dog, no houseplants, and most of her sanity. Let's go ahead and dive in and hear all about copywriting and how Jack became a corporate misfit.
You're listening to the Corporate Misfit Podcast with Brittany Darrington, where female entrepreneurs can get powerful tips and advice on how to start, launch, and grow their business.
Jacqueline, I am so excited to have you on the Corporate Misfit Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yay, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, Jacqueline, I am excited to dive in and talk all about copywriting and how you got started and how you help business owners to actually sound like a human. But before that, I want to dive into how you became a corporate misfit and decided to go into the world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to say I love the term corporate misfit. I wish that I had even heard that term back when I was in my corporate days looking to escape. Love it. So like many paths, it was long and windy, not necessarily direct. I spent a total of 13 years in the corporate world. Got my start in management consulting, big government work, federal government, USDA, state government, large healthcare companies, big companies like BlackBerry doing crisis communication. So very big corporate stuff. And 6 years or so into my career, my son was born. And when I went back to work after maternity leave, it felt a little bit like, what am I doing here? I remember sitting in a meeting, looking around, and it's like, what's the point? And yet staying home wasn't an option. That didn't appeal to me because I just came off maternity leave. And I was like, no, I want to work. I want to be doing this stuff in the world. And it didn't quite align. And I wish I could say that I had an answer right away. I had no idea. All I knew was that something was off. And then I was laid off 3 times in a span of 5 years. And that taught me a couple things. It taught me that there's no such thing as job security and that I wanted to take control. And I knew something wasn't right. So I read all the books, all the self-discovery stuff. I think an important one that I discovered during one time was Danielle Laporte's Fire Starter Sessions. And that was the first time that I clued into the idea of, oh, you can do work you like and get paid for it? Huh, that's interesting. And it wasn't like I jumped into writing right away. So my first business was a vegan food blog. Spoiler alert, I'm not vegan anymore. I feel like I always have to add that disclaimer. Started off as a vegan food blog, and I was getting featured in cookbooks. I was doing recipes for some big name meal delivery services and doing cooking classes locally, teaching people how to do cooking in a batch bulk kind of way so that they could get on with their lives and eat healthy. And when I stopped being vegan, that didn't make a lot of sense. And then I realized that it was the writing part of that business, the food blog, the lifestyle, the stories. I realized that was the most fun. And it was like kind of getting smacked in the head where you're like, oh, this is something that people have been asking for my help with all the time. I'd always been asked for writing help. Yeah, I had formal communications roles in some of my jobs, and people were asking me for my help writing big proposals worth millions of dollars and help updating their LinkedIn profiles and their resumes. I was like, I wonder if I could turn this into a business. So to get started, I put it out to a handful of people in my network, said, I'll write for you for free in exchange for a testimonial and some honest feedback. I loved it. They loved it. They turned it into clients, and that they led to more clients. Like, the referral machine is so powerful. And it took about 1.5 years of focusing on growing that business on the side until I could leave my corporate job. And that at this point, it's about 2.5 years ago, which is like, it feels like yesterday and like 100 years ago, all at the same time. And when I first started, it was like, I will write anything for anybody. And through that, in getting lots of experience and finding great clients to work with, I've really refined the people I love to work with and the type of writing I like to do. So that was a long and windy story.
I love it. I always love hearing how people became a corporate misfit, because we've all, started in a different way or a different path. And I love that you mentioned you were fired 3 times. What usually happens for some of us is that we feel like, whoa, I was let go, or I was fired, or these things happened. And we start to freak out because we're like, maybe I'm not good in the workforce, but you got back up. And I love that you started your business on the side too. I always tell people, if you have a 9-to-5 that is going to at least cover your bills, get your business going, get revenue happening, and get that on, off the ground, so that when you decide to go into your business full time, you're not the starving entrepreneur. So I love that you went that path, because it's so important. Okay.
Yeah.
So you decided to go into writing because you loved it from your blog, and the vegan recipes and things along those lines. But how did you finally narrow down who you wanted to work with? Because that's the question that most of us always have. We think we can serve everyone. So how did you narrow it down?
Yes. Well, initially, serving everyone was my answer. And I think that's perfectly fine to start out that way, because you will quickly discover what works and what doesn't, and who you don't want to work with. So I think it's fine in the beginning to cast a kind of broad net and then narrow down your niche as you get closer and closer. And that's how I figured it out. It was what work feels fun, what feels easy, who's getting the best results, which clients could I sit and talk with for hours and enjoy it. And the only way to figure that out was through. So you can think about it all you want. It's so important to take action and start working with those people to figure it out.
That's so true. Now, for our listeners who have no idea what a copywriter is, because I know when I went into the world of entrepreneurship, I didn't really know what it was. I was kind of like, what's a copywriter? Can you share your definition of what a copywriter is for those people who might not be as familiar with it?
Absolutely. So a copywriter is basically someone who writes words for someone else. So that can be website copy. So that's where the term copy comes from. Sales pages, about pages, your entire website. And then there's content writing. So a little bit different. And I do some of that too, where I write blog posts and articles in other people's voices. So it's like ghostwriting, but for the internet.
I love it. And so many people actually run into writer's block. And that's like one of the common things, like people get stuck on their website, their sales page, their anything that has to do with writing. So what are some ways that you stay inspired and keep that creative juices flowing when it comes to writing? Because that can be a really challenging roadblock for so many.
Yes, I hear this a lot. So I'm glad that you use the term writer's block. No, a lot of people say that. They're like, I have writer's block. I think writer's block is bullshit. The number one thing to get through it is in it. Just like when you're thinking about your business or starting, you can do all the planning and be in your head all you want. You have to write. So some like practical things to do if you are feeling stuck and don't know where to start. Journaling. Are you familiar with the term morning pages by Julia Cameron? Okay. Yeah. So morning pages all day. I like to have my clients warm up with that, my coaching clients, before we start writing, because it just helps get the stuff that helps helps this stuff get flowing and get the words out. And even practical things, like if you are, so actually when it comes to writing your website, if you're getting started and like, where do I start on my website? I usually recommend starting with where the dollars come in. So start writing with your sales page. If you have one page on your website, at least it can take, it's a way for you to start making money, and then build it from there. And you'll use a lot of that language throughout your website too, or use that inspiration. So that's also helpful. If you are feeling stuck, sometimes writing something, anything, is another way to keep going. So for example, we do so much writing in our business that we don't realize how much we are all writers and are all writing every day. So if you're stuck on a sales email, try writing a different email to a friend, or try looking at your email as an email to a friend. Same with your website copy. I mean, if you can take that pressure away, sometimes that's another way to make it feel better. And then, I mean, when it comes to content ideas and topics, once you start looking for inspiration, there are lots of places to look. Like the questions you get asked all the time, the stuff you love talking about, stuff that makes you angry, that you're passionate about, and ideas everywhere outside of your industry. It's also another favorite place of mine to look.
I love that you're mentioning this, because so many of us get stuck, especially in the beginning stages. We're like, whoa, I have to come up with all of this content and copy. But we get nervous because we're like, how do we do it? But I love what you said. You started off with kind of journaling and just practicing things that you do in your day-to-day life. Like, we all write emails. We all text message each other. We are always on and using some sort of form of writing in our business or in our personal lives. It's just like figuring out a way to tap into that and use it for our business. So
exactly.
There is one thing that you mentioned that I absolutely love, that you help business owners to actually sound like a human. Because most of us sometimes we're like, I'm going to sound like this corporation and not have a voice. So how do you help business owners to actually have a voice when it comes to writing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I used to write like that too, because I spent so many years in corporate. So I see that a lot of corporate writing, like a lot of academic writing. Writing online is different. It's conversational. You're having a conversation with one person, a potential customer, and you. So the simplest tip I love to recommend if you're just starting and feel like your writing might feel a little bit like stiff or buttoned up is using contractions. You can do a quick scan of your copy, replace the do nots with the don't. There, they are with there. Wheel, and notice how you talk. Another way to do that is to read it out loud, or have someone else read it out loud. It's like someone who knows you and that you can trust. And if they're like, this doesn't really sound like you, or this this doesn't sound quite right. And if you're reading something back yourself that you wrote and you don't want to read it, chances are someone else doesn't want to read that either.
That's so true. I've seen so many different versions of copy. And again, I never relate to copy that sounds like it's like written from this big brand. I always relate to copy that feels like I'm having just a conversation when I'm reading your website with that person or with that business, versus it being so stuffy.
Yes, exactly.
So a lot of people sometimes go into entrepreneurship and they're not prepared to do all of this writing. And so they want to outsource and find somebody to assist them, coach them, and help them, or even just do it for them. How can a new entrepreneur or even established entrepreneurs get started with copywriters?
That's a good question. And sometimes I think some entrepreneurs might jump in too soon to get started with a copywriter. So the best results that I can deliver for a client as a copywriter are if they've done some of the writing themselves and a lot of the digging themselves. Copywriters are not mind readers. Although, yes, I am intuitive and I can kind of figure out what you're saying. If you lay down a whole bunch of jargon and stuff, I can kind of pick out the important stuff. Spending time getting to know a couple things, getting to know you, who you are, and that can change. Absolutely. We are all constantly changing. So like, what kind of voice and tone do you want to present to the world? Like, you want to be friendly and fun, you want to be serious and snarky, or however that wants to be. And then knowing your people is the second part of it, which takes some guesswork if you're just getting started and don't know exactly who your people are. I usually recommend take your best guess and tweak. Your website copy and your emails are like living, breathing things. You will update it all the time. So just a note, I mean, I'm updating my stuff currently. It's always happening. So doing that work first and getting really clear on who you are and who your people are is a great first step. And that's also the first step I do with copywriting clients. Even if they've done it before, I need to get to know it. And a lot of the times I'll dig into that information that they have. We have a questionnaire and a interview process. And in there, I pull out the things that I think I see. And almost every time there are aha moments. They discover things about themselves they didn't know or didn't realize. And then I ask some hard questions. Well, hard from the fact of that they've never thought about it before. And it pushes them a little bit. They're like, oh, I never thought about it this way. Or even when it comes to, they tell me how they started their business and how they got started relates to their clients and where they are. And that story, guess where? It's not on their website. And I'm like, your story needs to be on your website. And a lot of people, that freaks people out. They're like, I can't. So there's a lot in there. There's a lot of preparing to do. And I help you get there too, if you are not sure.
That is so true what you said. Like a lot of people don't include their story when they are, showcasing who they are within their business. I know for my own self, I came out of a corporate world and I was like, oh, I don't want to tell people I drink wine while I'm making business plans or doing this fun stuff behind the scenes. I don't want them to think I'm a goofball and they can't take me serious. But then when you stop being your authentic self, what happens is then your writing and your copy on your website and your sales page and all of that really just doesn't even sound like a human or you. You're just kind of like, I hope they buy. I hope they move forward with a few words that I have on there that might relate to them. But that to me, a lot of people nowadays want the behind the scenes. They want to be all up in your business. They want to feel like they know you. They want to know the CEOs and things like that. And they want to see all of the behind the scenes. So if you're not sharing that or showcasing that on your website, it makes it really hard for people to want to move forward with you.
Yeah, exactly. People buy from people. We're still people buying at the end of the day. I'm not buying a corporation. I want to know who you are. The number one page people visit after they land on your website is your about page because they want to know you. So are you in there? You and your clients need to be in there. It's a balance and so important.
Absolutely. So what can entrepreneurs start doing today to start improving their copy? Maybe they are not ready for a copywriter yet, but what are some things that they can start doing today to just really start improving if they're feeling like, I have no idea what I'm doing, or my copy sounds like it's button up and stuffy and no one's relating to it? What can they start doing?
Good question. So first, when you're writing for another audience, which you probably are if you're selling something, whether you have a product-based business or service business, knowing your clients and your clients' words. So using that language helps you build trust, because when you use your client's language throughout your website, they're like, oh, this person is speaking my language. They get me. Not trying to impress them with fancy words or anything like that. Writing every day, which you're probably doing anyway. So keeping that in mind, that it's not like another task to add to your to-do list, whether that's journaling, writing an email, writing a personal pitch to someone, a podcast pitch, or anything like that every day. It's a practice. When I first started blogging, I published every day, 5 days a week, which was intense. It was a lot. And so that was 7 or 8 years ago. When I read those blog posts now, it's like horrifying. It's like, I can't believe I wrote that. It was so bad.
Oh, you're not alone. I am sometimes even like, I just don't even want to go to the page.
No. Oh, no. Yeah, it's painful. I don't like to go there. Some other ways to focus on developing a writing voice, I like to say go on a media diet, or consuming outside voices, or being very mindful in what you're consuming. So if you're taking advice from like all these different other experts and you're trying to turn that into something, sometimes those voices in your head take over and you're like, who am I now? So if you need to tune it out, go on a news diet, block out everything so you can create your stuff. Emailing a friend, whenever you're sitting down to email and you feel stuck, email one person, even if it's a favorite client you have, sitting down and messaging that person, because people buy from people. Avoiding writing like expert speak. So this is where the jargon and corporate stuff might come in. You're usually not writing for your peers or colleagues or competitors, unless they buy from you, then maybe you are. So that's keeping that simple language, human conversation. Reading it out loud is another fun way to figure out if stuff doesn't sound right, which might be uncomfortable. And you're like, if you read it out loud and it doesn't quite sound right. It's also a good editing tool to catch little mistakes and stuff like that. And the last one is joining a writing group or getting a writing coach or creating one with yourself, and not with yourself, with other people, business owners you know and trust. So some things to know there: be mindful of who you're getting feedback from. Make sure they know your business well. So if you see sometimes on like big public Facebook groups, hey, help me with this business problem, you get advice from like all these
a million
random people. And it's not helpful. And then you have to sift through that. So be careful where you go for advice.
I know.
So definitely get some from people you trust.
So much noise that you'll start to receive when you go and ask for advice. I know when I even hear someone say they want to start a business, I already ask them, how many people are you chatting with before you start this business? Because you have to make sure that this person's not receiving too much noise, because then they'll be in 85 different directions. That's so true.
Yep, exactly.
Now, you have been able to kind of dabble in so many different types of writing, from the cookbook and recipes that you mentioned, to blogging, to helping business owners. What is like the number one thing that you are most proud of when it comes to copywriting within your business?
Most proud of? Oh, that's a big question. I think it has to do with when it comes to coaching people to become writers. Or so many people come to me, even if they outsource their writing, so many people say, I'm such a crappy writer, I suck. And I'm like, your writing's actually pretty good. So seeing that and giving people the confidence to hit publish, like when I work with someone on getting some copy out there and we get it done and it's out there and then they keep creating, that's everything. It feels so good.
Oh, I bet that feeling feels amazing. I love it. I love to see people grow from like the information and the wisdom that you've given to them. It allows you to just kind of see like, I'm making a difference. More people are able to go and do what they do well without having to sit and feel like I can't do it. So I love that. Now, can you share one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur who's looking to crush it when it comes to copywriting in their business?
I think one of my favorite things to keep in mind is focusing on your client's language. So a lot of times you'll land on a website and you'll see, I did this, I went to school here, I did this, I did all these amazing things, and I'm amazing, and I do this. Do a quick scan through every bit of website copy and see where you have I, me, mine, and see if you can flip that around to be about your client. So it can be an easy switch. You get this. When you sign up, you'll have access to all of these amazing things. It's not about you as a business owner, keeping it about people. Because when they land on your website, they want to know about them. They're there for a specific reason. How can you help me? So tell them in their words how you can help them. And we can also talk about lots of ways to find those words if you get stuck too. You're like, how do I find client words? Your current clients, past clients, hearing or seeing conversations online and in other groups, seeing the language they use when they complain about stuff. Like if they say, if anyone says, what I'm really struggling with is this, listen for what's coming next, because that's some golden nuggets right there.
That's so true. And I feel like now we all need to go and do an audit on our website and our copy too. Make sure it's not about us and it's about our clients. It's so, so important.
Now, since you have become a corporate misfit and you have left the 9 to 5 and you've been working full time for a couple of years now, what piece of advice would you give to a new entrepreneur who's looking to go into the entrepreneurial world, but they're kind of nervous? They're afraid to get their feet wet. So what advice would you give to them?
Oh, I have so many words for them. Definitely trying it out. Like you said earlier, trying it out while you're still at your corporate job, because it's paying for you to do that. Why not take that opportunity? Also, see if there are ways at your corporate job that you can practice your business skills. Like in mine, I was lucky in that I did communications and I did a lot of writing. So I could focus on making my writing better and serving clients, because I was in consulting. I was in a very client-focused business. So where are the opportunities in your current job that can help you there? And noticing those things you're good at. What can also help is even doing the math. We need to do some math, figure out how much you need to be making to make your exit. The standard for our family was when I was making half of my corporate salary on the side, then I knew that I would have enough momentum that if I quit, I'd be able to replace my corporate income. So knowing that is also helpful. And another thing, which is kind of less talked about, is having gratitude for your corporate career. One, they're paying you and you're building this thing and they're funding it. So kind of look at it like they're an investor, not exactly. And having that energy towards your corporate career and what you've learned and the contacts you've made, that will bring a different energy to your business as you begin to start your entrepreneurial journey. And showing up with that energy of service from taking all that gratitude is so much cleaner than like desperately trying to get out and want something else.
I love this because it's so true. When you are able to feel that, hey, I'm grateful and I appreciate all of the opportunities that I have had, your mindset, everything about you is just different. And it's like when you go into your business, you don't want to act out of desperation.
Another thing you can do if you're itching and excited and want to feel like you're making progress, write your resignation letter. I did that a couple of times and I updated the date and I saved it in my drafts. Don't put anything in the to line yet, just in case you send by accident.
Just in case.
That could be an awkward conversation. Having that there and seeing that date, putting it on the calendar once it starts to get real, that can also really give you the fuel to keep going.
Well, Jack, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the Corporate Misfit Podcast and learning all about copywriting and how we can even get started with copy within our business as entrepreneurs. Can you share with us how we can stay connected with you and also learn more about your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website's jacquelinefisch.com. And my favorite place to stay is Instagram. I love playing with it, so the stories. It's fun.
I love it. Thank you so much. I will make sure to leave that in the show notes. And thank you again for joining us.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Corporate Misfit Podcast, we invite you to check out the Corporate Misfit Club. The Corporate Misfit Club is the essential resource for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start or grow a business they actually love. Whether you are a seasoned entrepreneur in your startup phase or simply thinking about taking the leap into entrepreneurship, we've got your back, girl. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive members-only discount perks, and unlimited tools. We also have a supportive community of women where our members share stories, experiences, their wins, and business tips. The Corporate Misfit Club is the perfect place to be to start, launch, or grow a business. So check it out at corporatemisfitclub.com.